Welcome back to another episode of ACC Central. Our Coaches Corner series continues with NC State Director of Player and Program Development, JT Jarrett. JT, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show, especially since practices have started and the schedule's a little busier.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm up here watching the grounds crew water the field, so we'll get out there soon. And I've been watching all the videos the last week or so thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your baseball journey and how you got back to NC State. Starting with maybe your playing career and then what you did in between a little bit.
Yeah, so I played here for 5 years. I was one of those COVID year guys. Played in the 2021 World Series, which if you follow ACC baseball, you know how that went. We had a great run. It ended in Omaha. Came back for my 5th year, which was 2022. A bunch of my friends, honestly, had moved on into pro ball. So Devontae Brown and Kanan Silver and myself were kind of the last guys that had been around for several years to, finish out our eligibility there in 22. And we also had another good year there. And then so I finished my playing career, and the spring was running out, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I had a connection at Mississippi State through Scott Foxhall, who was my pitching coach here my freshman year. And then he became the pitching coach at Mississippi State for a while. And then Bobby Austin, who was a bullpen catcher here while I was playing, was the director of player development at Mississippi State. So I had a connection with those guys, and they reached out and they basically said, hey, if you got no plans after this last spring of yours, come down here and do a grad year and just hang out and learn from us and, experience a new program. So that's what I did in 23. And I learned a lot from Coach Lamonis and Coach Gotro and Coach Foxhall and Coach Cheeseborough. And then after that year ran out, I got hired by Tyler Younger, who was also a former NC State guy. He is a head coach at Gulf Coast State College in Panama City. And so he gave me a cool opportunity, and I was there for a month. Like it was a great setup on the beach in Panama City. I was learning the JUCO route, and then Coach Avent called me because this job opened up. So I was an assistant coach at JUCO for literally a month, and then I was moving back to Raleigh, which was the 24 fall, and that's kind of how I got back.
That's awesome. I mean, talk to me a little bit. Was it always the plan to kind of go into coaching and player and program development, or were there other opportunities you were looking at as you graduated?
I didn't really know. Coach Hart would always ask me when I was a player, like when I was, 19, 20 years old, he was always like, you want to coach? And I would always say no. But I think I just said that because that's all I knew. I tell people, if you grow up in a farming family, you're like, odds are there's a good chance you become a farmer, obviously, right? And that's how I felt. But the more I matured and grew up a little bit, I realized, man, this is a cool way to, one, make a living. Like being at the baseball field, it's hard to beat that. And number two, I think I can give back a little bit as I am still close to the player's age, and I can relate to them, and I can provide some value to that. And I like to think I knew what I was doing out there on the field, so hopefully I can provide some value there as well. But yeah, I enjoy it. It wasn't always what I wanted to do, but I didn't really explore any other options, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, can you explain to me a little bit about what the director of player and program development does? I know obviously the name it's kind of in the name, but can you get a little bit more specific on what that role does? Because there's a lot of, that's a very common role at, in every big program. And I'm curious if to know exactly kind of what that entails and how hands-on you are with, some of the players.
Yeah, I think if you asked, every program this, you'd probably get a different answer, right? So, and being at Mississippi State, I watched Bobby Austin do this role, and I saw how they used it. And then obviously being a player here, I kind of saw how Ben Sanderson, who was in my role previously, how he operated. But essentially, the way I describe it to people is I'm kind of like the Swiss Army knife. So if I'll throw some BP, hit a fungo, work with the infielders on the field. Then off the field, I'm basically the middle person in between nutrition, academics, anything, whether it's social media, like videographer deals, or not deals, but shoots and stuff like that. I organize it with their class schedule and our practice schedule, communicate with the grounds crew every day. So basically, people that touch our program directly, a lot of times I'm kind of their first source of information and route to the players, so to speak. And then the players come to me a lot about certain things, whether it's I lived at the apartment complex all the guys live at right now. So it's like, hey, I got a parking ticket, or my girlfriend got a boot on her car. Like, how do you handle that? So I'm kind of a resource. At least I like to think to the guys, and hopefully they can use me in certain routes.
Absolutely. And you get to work at your alma mater pretty quickly. I know that isn't always the case, but you get to work under Coach Avent. Can you talk to me about how awesome it is to be back at NC State, where, obviously you were a student, graduated, you're familiar with it, but then you also get to work for a legendary coach like Avent, who you did play for, and there's a comfortability there. There's no was there any nerves going into the job there? Because it seems like there wouldn't be, given the comfortability of all the aspects there.
Yeah, no, there were no nerves. It's cool because we get to see each other in a different light now. I can probably cut up with him a little more now than I could when I was a 20-year-old kid. But the neat thing is I've been around him so long now that I understand how he communicates to the players, and I can kind of echo that in the player speak, so to say. But yeah, we got a good relationship, and he is very unique. And sometimes, like, I played here for 5 years, and the end of my career was when the transfer portal was getting cranked up. So we had older rosters, and players got to know him over a 4-year period. Now these guys, you just rarely have guys for 4 years. So when they're rotating kind of in and out of the program, they need help understanding how the coaching staff operates and how coach communicates, and I think that's something I can hopefully help with. But yeah, no, coming back and working for him was easy. He's the same guy whether you're playing for him or coaching with him. So there was no adjustment period really for me.
Yep, he's definitely a character. I very lucky to have him again, another year at least. Very excited there. Aside from Coach Avent, who do you view as like a mentor or somebody you try to emulate? I mean, imagine obviously your father, Link, who is at Florida State. But who are you trying to emulate as a coach?
I've never really thought of that. I don't have someone in mind that I try to emulate, but being around college baseball as a little kid and a high schooler, and then in college, I'd go home for Christmas break to wherever my family was at, whether it was Greensboro or South Bend, and you end up back at another college ballpark. So I just always grew up around it, and I think I was kind of soaking it in without thinking about it. So like when I was in elementary school, I would always be around Billy Godwin, the old East Carolina head coach, and multiple staff members there that I'm sure I just took in information and saw things as a kid about the college program that I don't even really comprehend or remember now. Then in middle school, I was always around the Auburn baseball program. So Coach Pulowski, and then Coach Foxhall was also there. Ty McGahee was there, who's now my dad's recruiting coordinator. So being around just like different staffs growing up, I think kind of just taught you things without even looking for it. Mm-hmm. And then obviously a bunch of coaches at UNC Greensboro that I got to know very well. Jerry Edwards, I've known him for a while now, and I know how he coaches. And Coach Holcomb, who was with my dad at UNC Greensboro and so now bounced around. He's at Ohio State. We talk often. So I don't say I emulate these guys, but I can reach out to a handful of people who have been coaching for a while, and I think that's kind of unique for someone in my age and my area of in their career.
Absolutely. And one of the things I found interesting is a lot of time you have not worked for your dad or played for your dad at the level. Was there is there something you just wanted to forge your own path, make different experiences? Just curious about that, because a lot of players do end up working with their dad or playing with them, playing under him.
Yeah, that's just something that hasn't happened. I mean, for better or for worse. I don't have any real thought about it. I mean, I get to actually watch them practice now because now that he's at Florida State, obviously in the ACC, and when last spring we had the ACC tournament in Durham, so a couple of teams would practice on our field while they're playing in the ACC tournament, and I would just sit in our dugout and watch the whole Florida State practice. So in theory, I've been around their practices, not just here, but obviously as a kid, in high school, I would just mix in like they're in and out. I'd go to shortstop and I would just like mix in, and I'd mix in a BP group. So I've been around enough to where I've learned plenty without being on staff or on the team. And that's how it's worked out, and it's been for the best.
Absolutely. So you're a North Carolina native. You know, your dad was a longtime coach, you know, in the North Carolina area. What made you pick NC State out of high school?
I mean, the short answer is no one else offered me, so I didn't have a tough choice to make. Coach Hart gave me opportunity, and that was it, really. So that was an easy answer.
There you go. So it's kind of crazy because 2021, everyone knows about that. You mentioned it briefly. That was also your breakout season because you had played a little bit as a freshman and a sophomore, but you were a development piece who really broke out as a junior and then played, I think 107 games over your last 2 years. How proud are you of being a part of that 2021 team, and how special is it looking back on it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's something I will forever cherish, being around those guys. Austin Murr and Evan Justice, two guys that were huge contributors on that team, are training here right now. Evan's throwing a pin right now. He wanted me to come watch. I told him I had to jump on here with you. So, but like the relationships we have with that group is pretty special. And that run was awesome. I think people that follow NC State athletics kind of, they know how special that group was, even though they weren't a part of it. Like countless people that just will come up and say like, hey, like, I know you're on that 21 team. Like, thank you. Or that was a special group of guys. And I'm like, you have no idea how special that group of guys were. But it was awesome. And it's something I'll never forget. To me, that group had been with each other for, 2 or 3 years, most of us. And we lost some regional games that were frustrating to us. And we felt like when we won that regional in Ruston, it was like a weight off our shoulders, and we kind of pushed down the door. And then it was like the most freeing baseball I think we've all played. Even though we were playing the super regional and in Omaha, we were playing so free. And I think that goes back to how much we cared for each other, and it was just a great experience.
Yeah, what's funny is two of the best teams, I think, in the last 10 years or so that they didn't make it to Omaha was the 21 Arkansas Razorbacks, who you took down, and the 2022 Tennessee Volunteers, who your dad took down, both on way to Omaha. Kind of crazy. There's a Jarrett connection to both.
Yeah, and I think I was much more nervous sitting in the stands in Knoxville than I was playing in Fayetteville. So that's something I take for granted. I get extremely nervous now when you're not playing because you can't do anything about it. And especially watching my dad's games when you're just, sitting on your couch or watching it on your phone, like you get extremely nervous. When you're in it, it's not as bad for some reason.
Yeah, there's some sort of sense of control. And you had some of your best offensive play in your career over that postseason stretch as well, getting on base, I think 16 straight games or something, towards the end of that season. I mean, that's got to feel pretty good considering you were kind of a defensive guy. Yeah.
I don't really remember the stats too much now, but maybe if our current players listening to this, they'll listen to me a little more about some hitting stuff. So that's good.
There you go. Yeah. It'd be weird if you did like just all of a sudden know the stats and just started spitting them off and be like, all right. But 2024, you had not quite started it at NC State yet, but both NC State and Florida State made it to Omaha.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I got thrown a little bit when I thought the fall before the 2024 season is when you got to NC State, right?
Yeah. So 24 was my first spring on staff here, and we went to Omaha, and so I was out there coaching, and also my dad was out there with Florida State, and that was we took family pictures in front of the statue, kind of behind home plate, and I was in my NC State stuff. My dad was in his Florida State uni. So that was special for my mom and sister and the rest of the family. And I mean, hopefully it happens several more times, but odds are it won't ever happen again, really. So that was a very, very special moment for the whole family.
And you guys were on opposite side of the bracket, so you had alternating days, so you could, in theory, depending on how practice worked out, see each other's games.
Right. Yeah, correct.
So that was pretty special. And Florida State was so good that year. You guys were so good. Every time we counted out NC State that year, you guys came back better somehow, despite the injuries. Some of the injuries you had when Shane Van Dam went down, it was everyone's panicking, and you guys were able to still respond and get back to Omaha.
Yeah, we had some really good young arms that year, and I mean, obviously some of them are still on staff, so that's what we're excited about this year. Duden and Consiglio and Marone, and I mean, you can keep going. Heath Andrews and. But yeah, all those guys. Yep,
absolutely. Puerto Rico, how excited are you for that opening weekend tournament? It's the second year they're doing it. There's going to be 3 ACC schools there. I don't think any of you guys they've designed it so you guys aren't playing each other, but that's got to be a pretty exciting experience for an early season tournament.
Yeah, something that's big for Coach is trying to help the guys see. What else is out there? I mean, we went to DC during the fall. We went to the U.S. Capitol while the government was shut down, which is cool. We went to Hawaii in 24, and then now we're going to Puerto Rico. So recently, Coach wants to show these young guys what's out there, and hopefully along the way they, grow closer and bond a little bit and learn something about another guy on the team that they didn't know and have fun, but also obviously play well on the baseball field is the most important thing. But that's really why we do them. And I agree with Coach.
Absolutely. And those showcases also feel like a way you can kind of simulate a regional in a way. If you handle it that way, I'm sure that's how you did Jacksonville last year. And, cause there's no other ways to really simulate that during the season, cause it's 3-game series or a midweek.
Yeah, no, good point. And also it's like, we did it this fall. We went on trip to show the guys how we travel and how you operate in the hotel and, how you help your roommate when he doesn't wake up on time and stuff like that. So traveling early in the season also knocks that stuff out. So when you travel to Tallahassee or Clemson or wherever it might be in the league, it's not like a let's figure it out on the fly type of weekend. It's kind of we have this stuff covered and we've operated as a team and a program on the road. And obviously it doesn't get much harder than leaving the country first weekend, but that'll help down the road,
Absolutely. And it feels like, the team's looking pretty good this year. It feels like NC State's flying a little bit under the radar despite, being ranked. That's got to feel pretty good, to get your guys, kind of get your guys' ducks in a row.
Yeah, it's fine with us flying under the radar to start. I don't think that bothers anyone. Obviously, you want people to talk about you because that means you're doing something right. But I don't think our guys are real worried about that. And I think we got a special group. Obviously, we've only been back a week or so, but they were all excited to be back. And some came back a couple days before school and did stuff on their own, and that's always exciting to see. And I think they're eager to start scrimmaging and really getting after it with each other.
Absolutely. You guys are opening up at in Puerto Rico. Then you come back home. You've got Princeton the week after. I'm sure there's a midweek in there for the home opener. But that's all I've got for you, JT. You have anything else you want to share or talk about?
No, that's honestly all. Thank you for the questions and take some time to get into the league a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to get out there and see you guys. It's going to be a fun season. I'm excited about what NC State's got. In terms of pitching, and the lineup feels deeper than even last year was. So it's going to be really fun to watch you guys out there. So really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thank you, Monty. And you got your road gray hat on. We got to get you a home lid.
Yeah. I'm collecting them. Especially yesterday was like National Hat Day. So the gray, I love the gray one. But yeah, there's so many different hats that you guys have. So it's always tricky to narrow down to one. But
just go the classic white or red. It's hard to beat.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
get that.
Yep. So we'll be back next week with, I believe, one more special guest before we start our team previews. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack. Thank you.